fight with me. We will not surrender. Not today. We will not bow to a new Lord of Hellas. We'll rise up the hill and we'll show them what we're made of. For this is our land. This is our people. This is Sparta. So we have our two players here set up and ready to play the game. The green player is playing with the hero Perseus, and the red player instead is playing with Heracles. Now keep in mind that this game can be played with up to 4 players, and the game gives you these other 2 heroes you can play with. You have Achilles and Helen. And as you can see, every hero is different for its own special ability and starting bonus. So at the start of the game, you have to pick one of these 4 heroes, and then you take all the pieces of the associated color. You see, Perseus, for example, plays with all of the green pieces, and Heracles instead comes with all of the red pieces. So even though I set up the game for just 2 players, you see this game takes up a lot of space, and if you want to set up a larger party for your game, then you need a larger table to play Lords of Hellas. You see that board right there is huge and takes up a lot of space on the table. Then you have all of these bits and pieces for the players, and the rest of the components are sitting right there on the other table. You got the game box with the rest of the components, the rule book, and then we have those 4 cards right there. They are the monster cards. They include all the stats and information for the monsters that you have to set up on the board at the beginning of the game. Now, if we take a closer look at those cards, you see we have those 4 monsters for this game. We have the Cyclops right there, the Minotaur, the Cerberus, and the Chimera. Okay, those monsters are chosen at random. There are more monsters that are currently sitting in the box right there. And if you take a look at the board, then you can find the miniatures for the monsters that have been set up for this game. You have the Cyclops right there. Then in the center of the board, we have the Cerberus and the Chimera. And then here in the corner, we have the Minotaur. You see? It's really cool that in this game, we get to play with these legendary creatures from the ancient Greek mythology. You probably only read about these creatures in legends or myths, but in this game they are for real, and you can play with these pieces, with these creatures. You fight these legendary creatures, and that's really, really cool. Now, if you take a close look at the board, you see that the board is divided into regions and lands of different colors. And all of those regions, they form part of this large territory that is a peninsula. If you take a look, you see that this land is surrounded by the sea on all sides. That is the Peloponnese Peninsula. And that will be the stage for the bloody fights you're going to have in this game with the other players for the conquest of ancient Greece. The ultimate goal in this game is to be the conqueror of ancient Greece. And to do that, you'll be taking your army. If you take a look at the green player, you see the green player is playing with Perseus and controls the green army. And here to the other side, we have the red army. You see all of those small figurines right there? Those are your foot soldiers, and in this game they are called hoplites. And you'll be taking your army across the board, recruiting soldiers and sending them out on the board to conquer other regions and lands, so that you expand your control over the territory, and then you control the majority of those regions and lands. That is one way to win the game. But of course, as you do that, you'll be fighting the other players. You'll be fighting the monsters as well. You have to be wary of the movements of the monsters, because they also move across the board and they can attack your army. And when they do, they can very easily kill your soldiers. Now, the monsters, what they do in the game, that is dictated by the red die you see right there. You roll this die for each of the monsters, and then based on the result that you get, then the monsters will just move or attack, or a monster may do nothing for a turn, or the monster may move and attack. So what the monsters do in the game is highly unpredictable, because it is based on this single die here. Another way to win this game is by killing 3 monsters. So the monsters are not just there to wreak havoc in the land and kill your soldiers. They are there because if you kill one of the monsters, the monster becomes your trophy, and if you get to kill 3 monsters in total, you win the game. So that is an alternative way to win a game of Lords of Hellas. The final way to win this game is by building one of the 3 monuments to the ancient gods and controlling the region where that monument has been built. Now, if you take a look at the board, you see there are those 3 pieces that are set up right there on the board at the beginning of the game. Those pieces are the basis or the foundation to the monuments of the gods. Here in the right corner, we have the base to the monument of Athena, and on the other side, right there, we have the base to the monument of Hermes, and right at the top we have the monument to Zeus. Okay, so these 3 monuments start the game with just the foundation, just the base, the first piece, and then players will be adding other pieces to these monuments to build up the monument. When one of these 3 monuments has been fully built, that will trigger the end of the game, and the player that controls the region with the fully built monument will be the winner of the game. So another thing that I really like about this game is that there are multiple ways to play and win this game. You can just focus on expanding your control over the territory and controlling most of the regions, or you can focus on hunting down the monsters and killing 3 monsters. You can win the game that way. Or you can focus on building the monuments and controlling the region with where the monument has been built. So that means that there's not just one single way to play and win this game. And as you play the game, you have to keep an eye open on what the other players are doing, because you can try and stop them from winning the game. This game is really strategic, and that's why I really like it. Now, there's a very high level of interaction in this game. You are interacting with the other players because you are fighting a lot, and you are interacting also with the monsters. Interacting with the monsters means you be fighting the monsters as well. Now, how the fighting works out, that is actually pretty simple. If you take a close look here, you see the players start the game with 1 card, 1 combat card. You see there's 1 for the green player and 1 here for the red player. And these combat cards, of course, are used in combat. They are weapons. You see here the red player has got a bow, and the green player instead has got an axe. And you see that these cards have a number right there, printed right there in the middle. That number is very important because when you're fighting, you count the number of soldiers that you are using in that fight, and then you add the numbers here on the cards that you use from your hand. The players start the game with just one combat card, but then players will be able to get more of these cards in their hand, and you can use these cards in your combat. So by combining these two together, the cards you discard from your hand and the soldiers that you use in a fight, you get to one number. The player with the highest number is the winner of that battle. So it's a very simple fighting system, and it works very similarly also for the monsters, okay? So what I also really like about this game is that all the rules are rather intuitive, just like the fighting system, the fighting mechanics. Everybody can understand them very easily and they can play the game. You can play the game with literally everybody. It's not a difficult game per se, but still the game is very strategic and there are lots of decisions you have to take. Decision making is very important, and you got to be the best stratego in the land to be the winner of this game. So I really like this game, and now I'll tell you more about it in the final thoughts of this video.
Lords of Hellas, I think this game is the only game with the actual figures for the ancient creatures from ancient Greek mythology. In this game, we get the Hydra, the Minotaur, the Chimera, all these cool creatures, and we can play with these creatures. They look awesome on the table. The game comes with awesome miniatures, and the game has got a great table presence. It's just good fun to set up the game and play with all these awesome miniatures and just get immersed into ancient Greek mythology. So I really like the table presence of this game. The game looks really cool when it's all set up on the table. I also really like just how the game plays out. It's good fun and it's easy enough. The game is very accessible. You can play with the game with everybody, basically, because the game doesn't come with a ton of rules. And if you take a look at the rulebook is made up of just a few pages. So the game is not bogged down by a ton of rules and tiny little things and details you have to keep in mind. That is one thing that I really like about a game, especially a game like this one here, which is huge and looks pretty daunting, but in the end, it's actually a fairly easy game you can play with basically everybody out there. So the game is one of the best area control board games out there, and I've played it a lot. It's been in my collection forever. I strongly suggest playing this game with other people, of course. There's also a solo mode for this game that is called the solo mode or solo campaign or the campaign mode. I tried it, I played it several times. I also made a video for that on my channel, and although playable, I wouldn't recommend it. You need to get this game only if you can play the game with other people, because that's when the game gets really fun and strategic and exciting to play. So overall, a very good game, a solid game, one of the best area control board games out there, and one of my personal favorites. I'm going to give this game a 9 out of 10. I strongly recommend this game, especially if you're looking for a very epic game. If you're in search for the next epic game to play with your friends, then look no further, because this is a truly epic game.